What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what happened with Nvidia's earnings and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break into things, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500 into the account, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 free stocks, and the offer ends in just a couple of days. Anyways, looking at SPY, we're up 0.4% in the after hours. Tesla's up 0.3%. ARM is up 6%. Nvidia is up about 8%. It's pushing not too far from its all time high. We're seeing the QQQ pushing. It's up almost 4 points in the after hours. The market is bouncing, the market is pushing, and Nvidia is squeezing. This is once again something that we were open-minded towards. I didn't tell you that Nvidia would explode or crash. I told you to be open-minded. I also told you that I wouldn't be surprised if we did see this thing squeeze. But at the end of the day, we were prepared for anything. And by being prepared and unbiased, you guys could see the upside is what ended up panning out. And we were always prepared for this no matter what. Nvidia is pushing after earnings have come out. I'll break down the numbers in just a couple of minutes and then the charts. But let's first talk about some data and such, because it's very important to go over this for tomorrow as a trader before I break down these charts. So for tomorrow, it's going to be Thursday, February 22nd. Do not forget that at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, an hour an hour before the market opens, we have initial jobless claims coming out, continuing jobless claims, just a couple of other pieces of data. And then after that, at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be 15 minutes after the market opens. We have the S&P Global Composite PMI report coming out. So all of this data is very important for understanding how the economy is looking. In the morning, the jobs numbers are important for the Fed and to understand how we're looking in terms of employment and to understand the strength in different sectors. Then for 9:45 a.m., the PMI reports are important for manufacturing and services data, and we're going to see more views about how these different sectors are looking. Then later on at 10 o'clock a.m., that's 30 minutes after market open, we have existing home sales. It's very minor data. We have Jefferson from the Fed giving a speech, followed by, we also have Harker giving a speech at 3:15 p.m. So we have a couple of Fed speakers and some data. The data that comes after 9:45 a.m. is not as significant. These are the main pieces of data right here. Basically, it's initial jobless claims in the morning before market open, and then the PMI reports 15 minutes after market open. Those are the main things that are going to affect the market tomorrow. Besides that, everything else is quite minor. Now, in the morning, we had the FOMC minutes come out. I went over more details about this in my earlier video, but just in shorts, the Fed is warning of the possibility of them having to keep rates higher for longer, but they're also talking about the risks of them doing that. Many of the other Fed officials were saying that's too risky for them to start cutting now. They have to wait and see and monitor the situation. So that's what's been going on. That's why the market ended up getting an initial sell off today in the morning. And the market ended up selling off approaching the final hour of the day. And then during the last 30 to 40 minutes of the day, the market started to pump again. It started to rally. And this happened amidst the fact that we were approaching Nvidia's earnings and these big institutions started to buy in again. The buyers came back, they started pushing the market higher, and as a result of that, we saw more and more and more upside. So that's what panned out thus far, and we saw Nvidia just continue to hold the market up and squeeze shorts. It was very, very fun to watch, fun to play. Now, the fear and greed index is still at greed. We were at extreme greed. We fell back to greed. Now we're back to the higher end of greed. This shows that there's still buyers present. They're not done quite yet. So we just have to be very, very patient. See, the VIX was at extreme fear. It was at extreme fear. It's been there. This is going to likely turn back down. So watch for that very, very carefully. The VIX has a gap to fill as well. We'll see how it ends up reacting to the 50 daily moving average. But so far, watch for all these different indicators. Now, let's call out some earnings. As you know, Nvidia just announced earnings. I'll go over this in a minute. But for tomorrow, don't forget, okay, that we have Moderna. We also have Nikola. We have Fiverr and Wayfair in the morning. And then after the market closes, we have Carvana and just a couple of others. And then on Friday, we have Warner Bros. Discovery. So we have very minor earnings for the remainder of the week. Nothing is like that insane. But Nvidia is such a monster. It's so big, it's worth almost $2 trillion. So because it's so big, it's going to still have a ripple effect on the markets going into Thursday and Friday. So Nvidia will affect us for Thursday, regardless of what these earnings look like, in my opinion. And we're going to be watching to see what it causes. Why did Nvidia pump to the upside? Let me give you guys an answer. So Nvidia did relatively well. Their overall earnings, for the most part, were very strong. There were some sectors that were kind of like wishy-washy, but everything else was quite good. And then their guidance was actually pretty strong as well. They ended up raising on guidance, which surprised a lot of investors. Let's break down these numbers. So Nvidia had better than expected guidance, and the fiscal fourth quarter results were better than expected. You can see right over here that we're going to start from right here. For the 3 months ending on December 31st, Nvidia announced its earnings. EPS was $5.16. We were expecting $4.64. That's the adjusted EPS, by the way. They beat on that. So it's very, very good. Revenue was 22.1 billion. They were expecting 20.55 billion. So they beat on revenue as well. What else is interesting is the data center, which is actually one of the most important components of its revenue generation. This is the gauge of AI demand. It saw revenue swell to 18.4 billion, up 409% from a year earlier, beating estimates of 17.06 billion, another beat showing rising demand for their AI GPUs. The gaming business saw revenue up 56% to 2.87 billion, while the automotive sector slipped about 4%. So overall, not bad whatsoever. We did see some sectors kind of like a little bit lagging, but everything else was fine. The beat has come despite the fact that even as data centers, their sales to China declined significantly in the fourth quarter because of licensing requirements by the US and also export bans. Despite that, it's not really enough to really offset their numbers and stop them from beating on earnings. So they still managed to beat exactly what I predicted. Their guidance, however, is what I wasn't able to predict. They ended up giving us strong guidance again. So for the fiscal Q1, revenue is expected to be 24 billion. That's give or take 2% off depending on the margin. And that's topping analyst estimates of 22 billion. So analysts were expecting 22 billion for Q1 of this year, right? They actually achieved 22 billion for Q4. They achieved that basically for Q4 of last year. And then for this year, they're saying that, hey, we're going to be getting 24 billion instead. They're raising their guidance, which is very, very strong. Their non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be around 76.3% and 77%. Not bad whatsoever. So strong estimates, good perspectives, and they're basically trying to convince us that their views and their ability to sell AI generated chips are going to continue to be very, very useful for them and very, very strong. So they have strong demand still. They're still growing, strong earnings, strong guidance. NVIDIA has rocketed as a response to that. So let's break down the charts. How are things looking? What do I think is going to pan out? Let me give you guys my perspective and my opinion. Looking at SPY, I want to say that SPY is looking bullish. When you look at the 4-hour time frame, we're about to get a bullish crossover on the PPO, and this thing is trying to bounce. I think it's going to be testing 500, and once that breaks, watch 501, then 503. For support, make sure you watch 498, and if that fails, let's watch 496. I don't expect it to fall that much. I think it's more likely to continue pushing for 500 plus, and it might even try to make its way up to its all-time high. We could even see the all-time high again. It is more than possible, so do not rule that out. And we might see the all-time high just basically be tested again. So watch 500. I think it's going to break 500 and push higher. There's a very good chance that SPY is going to do that. For Nvidia, in my opinion, Nvidia is looking bullish because when you zoom out and look at the chart from here, you could see that this thing came down and then started to push, making a full recovery, approaching the all-time high. It's also holding 725 quite nicely, trying to push up again. So watch 734 and then 740 on Nvidia. If it breaks that, we have some tight resistance. We could push for 750 plus, but that's going to be a new all-time high if we break above 742 and 745. For support, we want to see it try to hold 725 followed by 720. Overall, it's looking quite strong. It's holding nicely with good earnings. More buyers may step in, so I'd say Nvidia is looking quite good. Now, for the triple Q, I want to call out something very important. Now, we could draw out this little trend line right here, and you could see where this thing could go if we break 430. This yellow trend line is actually connecting these two highs, and that's going to actually take us to about 434 if we were to test it by tomorrow. And then if I close this, I mean, you guys can see it's trying to rebound right here. We're getting a nice technical bounce. So I think that technicals alongside Nvidia are going to help push this thing up even higher. And I say that not just because of this chart, but you can also look right over here on the PPO. It's showing the same thing. We're going to be watching the 50 EMA's resistance at 429.5. If we break that, I'm going to be looking for 432, then 434. For support, watch 429, then 427, and 425. I think NVIDIA is going to push up for the 430s, make its way up to 432, and eventually those higher levels looks bullish to me. For Tesla, Tesla, in my opinion, looks bullish because what you could do is basically look at the trend on Tesla. So, like right here, you could see that Tesla was uptrending. We had this low here, broke this high, we made a higher low, and now we're trying to push up and slowly push up for that 200 resistance to start breaking out. This also looks like a mini accumulation here from this potential flag. So, we're getting a breakout from a technical standpoint. And then on top of that, I want to call out the bigger picture. Nvidia is going to help this pump because if Nvidia does well, that's good for Tesla. Nvidia is supplying chips to Tesla as well. And then we also have a nice left shoulder here, the head over here, the right shoulder. We could see Tesla just continue to uptrend. We had this low here, higher low right here, right? I'm sorry, higher high here, higher low, higher high, higher low. Could continue to push to fill that gap. And our next target is going to be all the way up towards the 207 area. Also notice that Tesla likes to form nice cups and it likes to break out from them. So right here, it curled, formed the cup and broke out, curled and formed the cup and broke out. It curled and now it's starting to form a cup. Is it about to break out? It definitely can do that. So I think, in my opinion, Tesla's going to be pushing towards 200 tomorrow. If not, if that breaks, 205 to 207 is coming. And if we break 207, 212 will be our next target. I think Tesla's looking bullish. Going to be looking at support at 195, 192, and 190 and watch resistance at 198, 200, and then 205. I think there's a good chance it's going to make a full recovery and start pushing. So watch Nvidia dictates the way. Last but not least, from the main five I typically go over, we have Aapl. In my opinion, Aapl looks like it's forming an accumulation right over here. You have this wick right here, which is a nice liquidity grab. So there's a very good chance it's going to try to break above this resistance at 182.5. As long as we can break this, I think 183.5 is coming next, followed by 185. But we have to see this thing break out of the zone it's currently in. There's a good chance it may attempt to do so, but we have to see it to actually identify and kind of like play that trend. So watch and see if we can get this breakout. There's a good chance Aapl will try to push higher. It's not as strong as SPY and other tickers are, but there is going to be an attempt, I think. So at least 183.5 should be coming. Watch 181.36 and then 180 as supports just to be safe. But I think Apple's going to try to push higher. Now, with that being said, I'm just going to go over a couple more just for fun. Rivian is sinking amidst what's happening right now. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but watch 12 to see if it can base there. SoFi is trying to rebound. It looks to me like it's going to be testing basically 8.23. If that breaks, watch 8.32. ARM or ARM is looking bullish. I think it's going to be pushing for 136. I think we're going to be looking for a nice move tomorrow. For super micro, we're going to be watching, it's at 800 right now, but watch 805 as resistance at the 4-hour 20 EMA. If that breaks, we could be pushing back up for 850 plus to 920, which is where this previous wick was. If it fails, we're going to be coming back down to 776 and eventually lower levels. But thanks to Nvidia, it's looking a little bullish. We have to break this resistance first. There's a good chance it might break out, so look for a bounce tomorrow thanks to buyers and also thanks to the other, thanks to Nvidia as well. For Palantir, look and see if this thing could hold 23.67. If we hold that, 25 plus is coming. We're looking kind of bullish. On the IWM, we're looking bullish. We're going to be looking for a test of, so it's trying to bounce over here, bounce just above its 200 EMA. Watch 199.23, eventually 201 basically. So it does look kind of bullish to me. Carvana, in my opinion, is looking quite decent. As long as it holds above 47.5, we could be looking for a rebound for 51. I think it might test 51 before its earnings, maybe even a little bit higher. For Microsoft, I think that this is looking bullish. As long as we can break 403, 406 is next, and 410, there's a good chance it's going to try to push higher. It looks bullish, so look out for that. SoFi is getting, Nvidia is helping this push towards 79 in my opinion, so watch for that push. AMD is going to likely push for 70. This is a 171. If we break this, then 175 is next. There's a good chance it could continue higher. The VIX, remember guys, the VIX had this gap. We were talking about this. If we, lose this support right here, I think it's going to come down to fill this gap. So with that being said, we might come down to fill the gap. The market may rebound as a result, or the market is rebounding, causing this to drop as a result. Sorry, guys, I kind of misworded that. But overall, I do anticipate a drop in the VIX. The dollar is also dropping, which is typically bullish for the market. So watch that very carefully. Coinbase, I'm just going to go over a couple more. Coinbase, we're going to be watching a test of 168. That's the 20 EMA. If we break this, watch it push for at least 175. So 175 then 178 could be coming. So watch for that. For Google, going to be looking for a push right here. As long as we hold above our 50 EMA, as long as it holds 144.8, we're going to be looking for a bigger move towards 146 all the way up here. For Amazon, going to be looking for a push towards we have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. I could see 172 coming. We have to try to hold above 170. If it holds 170, I think 172 is going to be tested, so it looks bullish. And finally, for Meta, one of the things we're seeing for Meta is we're bouncing off the 50 EMA. Going to be looking for a push above 475. If that breaks, our next target's at 480. It's going to come up to about 480, guys. So I could see a little push on Meta. So as you guys can see, Nvda is a monster. It is pushing the whole market up with it. This is exactly what I was warning everyone about. So look for more upside tomorrow. Watch your levels, watch resistance just to be safe, and get ready, guys, because we're seeing a mini short squeeze throughout the markets. We'll see what else Nvidia could bring. With that being said, I really just want to say I appreciate every single one of you for watching these videos. I appreciate your attention. Sorry if I kind of sound like I'm rushing in this video. I recorded this whole video and had an issue, so I had to re-record it. But hopefully everything is okay now. Take care, guys. Do what you have to do. I respect everyone. The market to the moon because the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.